The huge crystal halls of the Galaxy Council Chamber were filled with the loud voice of Councillor Vexthal from the Mortanian Empire. His blue-scaled body was much taller than the human group as he hit his clawed fist hard on the table, Ambassador. Li Jinwu stayed completely calm. His dark eyes watched the alien show his anger with quiet patience. Your weak species will give up the Kepler 442 system right now, Vexthal said with hate. His snake-like tongue moved between his sharp teeth. The Mortanian Empire has claimed that area for our growth, and we will not let primitive animals who just learned to leave their dirt planet 200 years ago stop us. Captain Park Minho stood behind the ambassador and felt his jaw get tight. The Kepler system had 3 busy human colonies with over 50 million people. Women like Dr. Kim Sora had spent many years making those worlds better, turning empty rocks into garden planets where human children played under alien suns. The nerve of this scaled politician demanding they give up their homes was beyond rude, Ambassador. Li answered in calm words that somehow made the room feel colder. Councillor Vexthal, the human colonies in the Kepler 442 were built following proper galaxy rules. Our land claims were filed and approved by this very council 15 years ago. Maybe your memory needs fixing. The Mortanian eyes burned with anger. His species had ruled 3-star systems for thousands of years, crushing dozens of smaller civilizations. Under their military power, they were top hunters made by genetics for conquest and control. The idea that these soft-skinned newcomers would dare refuse their demands was unthinkable. You mistake our request for a talk, Vexthal growled, his voice dropping to a scary whisper. We are telling you about reality. Your colonies will be emptied within 30 standard days, or we will empty them ourselves. The choice is yours, but the result stays the same. The room became silent. Even the other council members representing dozens of alien species seemed to hold their breath. The Mortanians were known for their cruel skill in war. Their battle fleets had turned entire civilizations to space dust when talks failed to get what they wanted. But something in Ambassador Li's face made the silence feel different. It was not fear or giving up that showed across his features. It was something the Mortanians had never seen before in their centuries of conquest. It was pity. Councillor Li said softly, I strongly tell you to think again about this action. Humanity values peace, but we are not without defense. We have built our colonies with the sweat and dreams of our people. We will not leave them to satisfy your empire. Greed. Vexthal's laugh was like breaking glass. Your entire species has fewer than 200 warships. Our single battle fleet contains over 3,000 ships, each able to crack planets. You have no friends, no ancient technologies, no higher numbers. What could you possibly do to threaten the Mortanian Empire? The human group looked at each other. Captain Park stepped forward, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had seen humanity true abilities. Sir, you are making a basic error in your math. You are thinking that humans fight like other species in this galaxy. We do not. Your threats mean nothing, Vexthal dismissed with a wave of his massive hand. In 30 days, your colonies will belong to the Mortanian Empire. This talk is over. As the council meeting ended, Admiral Choi Hyun-woo watched the events from the viewing deck. The gray-haired military officer had spent 40 years studying alien war tactics, and he saw the classic pattern of empire overreach. The Mortanians had grown too comfortable through centuries of easy wins against civilizations that fought normal space battles. They had never faced an enemy that refused to play by known rules. They had never met a species that saw impossible odds not as a reason to give up but as a challenge to overcome through creativity, determination, and controlled anger. The 30-day countdown had started, but Ambassador Li felt no worry as he sent his report back to Earth. The message was simple: Mortanian Empire has declared hostile plans against human colonies. Recommend immediate start of Protocol 7 on Earth. President Yoon Dae read the message with grim satisfaction. Humanity had hoped never to use the backup plans they had spent decades making, but if the galaxy bullies wanted to test human resolve, they would learn why Earth children had survived ice ages, world wars, and the darkness between stars. The Mortanians expected a normal surrender or a hopeless military response. They would get neither in the deep black of space. Between stars, something was moving that no sensor could detect. Human ships built with technology that bent the rules of physics were already positioning themselves around Mortanian space, these were not the warships that alien intelligence had. Counted, these were something entirely different. Commander Chun Minseok checked his ship systems one final time. His vessel looked like empty space to any scanner. Even other human ships could not see him unless they knew exactly where to look around. 99 other craft maintained perfect formation, despite being completely invisible to each other. The human fleet moved like ghosts through the void, approaching targets that the Mortanians did not even know were important. Their ships carried no weapons in the traditional sense. Instead, they carried something far more dangerous. They carried the tools to turn the enemy-owned technology against them. Back on the Mortanian homeworld, Vexthal was already planning his victory celebration. The humans had made no military moves, no fleet buildup, no diplomatic begging, no signs of resistance. Their colonies had even gone quiet, with their communication systems mysteriously offline. Pathetic. He told his war council, the mammals have accepted their fate. Deploy the occupation fleet to claim our new territories. But Fleet Commander Corvinthal was looking at sensor readings with confusion. My lord, we are detecting some strange gravity readings near the outer system. Our deep space sensors show nothing. Clear sensor errors, Vexthal said with a wave. Just some mining equipment the humans left behind. Send a patrol to check after we secure the colonies. What the Mortanians did not know was that humanity had spent the past 30 days putting into action a plan that no galaxy power had ever attempted. Instead of gathering forces for a normal battle, they had positioned tools throughout Mortanian space using technology that made them undetectable until activation. Dr. Kim Sora was not on her peaceful colony world anymore. She was hidden deep inside a Mortanian communication station, having infiltrated their systems months ago. Her fingers moved across alien controls with practiced ease. Every piece of technology the Mortanians had bought, traded for, or stolen from human space contained hidden programs that were now ready to execute their real purpose. The Mortanians had been so focused on the threatened colonies that they had ignored the bigger picture of humanity response. They thought like conquerors, not like the species that had survived by being smarter than their enemies. Captain Park Minho now commanded the operation from what appeared to be a civilian space station. His tactical displays showed the positions of human assets across multiple star systems. The Mortanians had been so busy counting human warships that they had missed the real threat phase. 2. Isgo Park announced to his strike team leaders, remember, we are not just fighting for our colonies. We are showing the galaxy that humanity cannot be scared. The countdown reached 0, and across the Mortanian Empire, critical systems began to fail. Power grids shut down, transportation networks stopped, communication relays went silent. The proud civilization that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was about to learn what happened when they threatened the wrong species. Vexel was about to discover that some wars are won before the first shot is fired, and some enemies are defeated by weapons they never see coming. The Mortanians had picked a fight with humanity, and humanity had been ready for them long before they knew a fight was coming. Dr. Kim Sora stood in the viewing dome of New Sol Station, watching the three suns paint Kepler 442b sky in bright oranges and purples. The farming communities below continued their daily work, not knowing that their peaceful life had been threatened by an alien empire that saw them as problems. To remove her tablet made a sound with a secret message from Earth Command. The orders were short but clear. Civilian escape preparations complete. Keep normal operations. Trust in humanity. Resolve. Sora smiled with grim understanding. She had helped design the terraforming systems that turned this empty world into a living ecosystem. Every flower in the valley below, every tree in the huge forests, every grain of engineered soil had been placed. With careful planning, the Mortanians thought they could simply walk in and claim the results of human hard work. Meanwhile, in the Mortanian home system, Vexthal looked over intelligence reports about human military abilities with growing confidence. Fleet Commander Corvinthal presented the analysis with typical Mortanian efficiency. Their naval forces are primitive, my lord. Kinetic weapons, basic energy shields, normal propulsion systems. Their largest vessel measures barely 800 meters in length, and their ground forces, Vexthal asked, though the answer seemed obvious. Standard infantry equipment, chemical explosives, basic armor systems. Nothing that poses any threat to our invasion forces. Corvinthal mandibles clicked in amusement. The humans appear to favor quantity over quality in their military doctrine. What the Mortanian intelligence failed to see was that human military doctrine had evolved far beyond simple ship-to-ship combat. While other species developed bigger guns and thicker armor, humans had spent centuries mastering the art of asymmetric warfare. They had learned that the strongest enemy could be defeated by attacking where they were weakest, not where they were strongest. On Earth, General Nam Taeyong worked with military leaders across human space. The activation of Protocol 7 had triggered a cascade of carefully planned responses. Merchant vessels began subtle course corrections. Deep space monitoring stations increased their scanning frequencies. Industrial facilities shifted production schedules without any apparent pattern too. Outside observers, human space appeared to be conducting business as usual. The Mortanians saw no military buildup, no fleet movements, no signs of preparation for war. Their confidence grew with each passing day, but in the depths of human space, beyond the reach of alien sensors, different preparations were underway. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo stood in the command center of a facility that officially did not exist. The Prometheus Project had been humanity's most classified research initiative for over 30 years, while the galaxy powers built bigger and more powerful warships. Human scientists had pursued a different path. Status report Admiral Choi requested from Dr. Shin Kyung-min, the project lead scientist. All systems operational, sir. The fleet is ready for deployment on your command. Dr. Shin's voice carried a mixture of pride and worry. They had spent decades developing technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Now they would discover whether their theories could withstand the reality of combat. The Mortanian Empire had made the fatal mistake of judging humanity by the standards of conventional galactic warfare. They expected either submission or a desperate frontal assault by outmatched human forces. They had prepared for neither scenario that was actually unfolding. Commander Hyun Min-seok moved his invisible ship through the void between stars, following a path that took him directly through the heart of Mortanian space. His vessel's signature was completely hidden by technology that made normal sensors see empty space around him. His fellow commanders maintained perfect formation despite being unable to detect each other. The human strategy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massing ships for a great battle, they were positioning individual assets throughout enemy territory. Each ship carried technology that could disable entire star systems without firing a single conventional weapon. Back on the Mortanian homeworld, preparations for the occupation continued with typical efficiency. War factories increased production of landing craft, transport ships loaded with colonization equipment. Battle fleets ran final system checks before deployment. Vexo reviewed the final invasion plans with satisfaction. The human colonies would be easily overwhelmed. Their pathetic defense forces would be swept aside. Their civilians would be relocated to make room for proper Mortanian settlers. It would be another glorious victory for the Empire. But something nagged at Fleet Commander Corvin Full as he studied the sensor readings. The gravitational anomalies near the outer system were becoming more frequent. The deep space monitoring stations were reporting equipment failures that made no sense. Their most advanced sensors were seeing things that should not exist. My lord, he reported to Vexthal, we are experiencing unusual technical difficulties across multiple monitoring stations. The pattern suggests possible equipment interference. Ekel was not concerned. Technical glitches are common in deep space. The humans probably left some industrial equipment behind when they abandoned their monitoring posts. Send maintenance crews to investigate after we secure the colonies. What the Mortanians did not understand was that human engineers had been working for months to prepare this moment. Every piece of technology they had ever traded, sold, or given to the Mortanian Empire contained hidden components that were now coming online. Dr. Kim Sora finished her work inside the Mortanian communication hub and began her extraction. The alien technicians around her had no idea that their most secure facility had been compromised for over 6 months. Every message, every order, every piece of strategic planning had been monitored and analyzed. The nanoscale devices she had planted throughout their systems were now ready to execute their primary function. When activated, they would turn the entire Mortanian technology infrastructure into a weapon against itself. Captain Park Min-ho watched his tactical displays from the hidden command center built inside what appeared to be a civilian space station. The Mortanians had been so focused on counting human warships that they had completely missed the real threat. Human assets were now positioned throughout their territory, ready to strike at the foundation of their technological civilization. As the deadline approached, Vexthal grew increasingly satisfied with human compliance. No military response had materialized. No desperate diplomatic entreaties had been received. The humans appeared to be accepting the inevitable with the resignation of a defeated species, but Admiral Troy knew better. He had studied human history and understood what made his species different from others in the galaxy. When humans were threatened, they did not just fight back, they fought to ensure the threat could never rise again. The order came through encrypted channels to assets across Mortanian space. Begin Phase 1. Show them what humanity learned from fighting ourselves for 10,000 years. The Mortanians were about to discover that some species do not just fight to win, some species fight to ensure their enemies never threaten anyone again. And humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of total war. Commander Chun Min-seok piloted his ship through the void between stars, his vessel signature masked by technology that made it invisible to normal sensors. Around him, 99 other craft maintained perfect formation despite being completely undetectable to each other. The human fleet moved like ghosts through space, approaching the Mortanian home system along paths that defied standard military doctrine on the Mortanian homeworld. Vexthal was celebrating what he believed to be humanity. Inevitable surrender. The deadline had passed with no military response, no diplomatic communications, no signs of resistance. The human colonies in Kepler 442 had gone silent, their communication arrays mysteriously offline. The mammals have accepted reality. Vexthal declared to his assembled war council, "Deploy the occupation fleet to claim our new territories," but Fleet Commander Corvinthal frowned at his sensor readings. "My lord, we are detecting some unusual gravitational anomalies near the outer system. Our deep space sensors show nothing conclusive." Sensor ghosts, Vexthal dismissed. The humans probably left some mining equipment behind. "Send a patrol to investigate after we secure the colonies." What the Mortanians did not realize was that humanity had spent the past 30 days implementing a strategy that no galactic power had ever attempted. Instead of massing forces for a conventional battle, they had positioned assets throughout Mortanian space using technology that rendered them undetectable until activation. Captain Park Min-ho commanded the operation from New Seoul Station, now revealed as a military command center. Hidden within civilian infrastructure, his tactical displays showed the positions of human assets across multiple star systems. The Mortanians had been so focused on the threatened colonies that they had ignored the broader implications of humanity. Response Phase 2's Go. Park announced to his strike team leaders, "Remember, we are not just fighting for our colonies, we are showing the galaxy that humanity cannot be intimidated." The first sign of trouble came when Mortanian communications across 3 star systems suddenly went silent. Their quantum relay network simply stopped functioning, leaving their scattered forces blind and isolated. Vexthal's celebration turned to confusion as reports flooded in from across the Empire. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Rigel outpost," reported a communications officer. "The Vega mining operation has also gone dark." Before Vexthal could respond, more reports arrived. Industrial facilities were shutting down, orbital platforms were losing power. Military bases were reporting equipment failures across the Mortanian Empire. Critical infrastructure was simply stopping. Dr. Kensora watched the unfolding chaos from her hidden position within the Mortanian communication network. The nanoscale devices that human engineers had been secretly deploying for months were finally activated. Every piece of technology the Mortanians had purchased, traded for, or captured from human space contained hidden subroutines that were now executing their primary function. "The humans have been inside our systems for months," she reported to Admiral Troy. "They never saw us coming because they never imagined we would infiltrate their infrastructure rather than attack their military." The Mortanians were learning a harsh lesson about human warfare. While they had been preparing for ship-to-ship combat, humanity had been fighting a completely different war. They had turned the enemy-owned technology against them, creating chaos from within while remaining completely invisible to conventional military detection. But The real shock came when Vexthal Personal flagship suddenly lost all power. Emergency lighting flickered on as life support systems switched to backup power. The massive vessel pride of the Mortanian fleet was now drifting helplessly in space. How is this possible? Vexthal roared. Our ships are built with our own technology. The humans have never had access to our systems. General Nam Tae-young voice echoed through the ship communication system, somehow bypassing all security protocols. Counselor Vexthal, this is General Nam of the Human Defense Force. Your assumption about human capabilities was incomplete. The Mortanian leader blood ran cold. Impossible. You could never penetrate our defenses. We did not need to. Nam replied calmly. We simply waited for you to invite us in every trade negotiation, every diplomatic exchange, every piece of human technology you have encountered over the past 5 years contained our gifts to your empire. You have been using our Trojan horses to build your own systems. The scope of human planning became clear while the Mortanians had been dismissing humanity as primitive newcomers. Human intelligence operatives had been conducting the most sophisticated infiltration operation in galactic history. They had turned the enemy's own superiority complex against them, making them eager to acquire and integrate human technology as Mortanian systems failed across their empire. Vexthal finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The humans had not responded to his threat because they had already won the war before it began. Dr. Shin Kyung-min monitored the cascade failure from her research station. The nanoscale infiltrators have achieved 97% system penetration, she reported. Every piece of technology containing our embedded code is now under human control. Commander Chun Min-seok's ships remained invisible as they watched Mortanian vessels lose power across the star system. The proud fleet that had terrorized civilizations for centuries was now nothing more than expensive debris drifting through space. But humanity was not finished. The real demonstration of their capabilities was yet to come. Every Mortanian world, every orbital station, every piece of infrastructure that relied on technology was now under human control. The empire that had threatened to crack planets was suddenly as helpless as the species they had once conquered. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Mortanians had made the fundamental error of underestimating an enemy they did not understand. They had prepared for the war they wanted to fight, not the war humanity was actually fighting across Mortanian space. The message was becoming clear. Humanity did not fight like other species. They did not seek glorious battles or heroic victories. They fought to win completely and permanently, ensuring that their enemies could never threaten anyone again. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson about the species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. Some civilizations fought for conquest, some fought for glory. Humanity fought for peace, and they were very, very good at it. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo stood in the command center of the Prometheus facility, watching tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of Mortanian military capability. Their proud fleet of 3,000 warships was now nothing more than expensive debris drifting through space. The empire that had terrorized civilizations for millennia was suddenly as helpless as the species they had once conquered. Sir, reported Lieutenant Yoon Ji-woo, we are receiving surrender offers from 17 Mortanian colonies. They are requesting immediate humanitarian assistance. The irony was not lost on Admiral Choi. The same species that had threatened to crack planets was now begging for human mercy. But the operation was not about revenge. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy about the consequences of threatening humanity. On the Mortanian homeworld, Vexthal watched his civilization crumble in real time. Power grids failed, transportation systems stopped, communication networks went silent. The sophisticated technology that had elevated the Mortanians above their primitive neighbors was now their greatest weakness. Shin Kyung-min monitored the cascade failure from her station. The nanoscale infiltrators have achieved 97% system penetration. Every piece of technology containing our embedded code is now under human control. But the true genius of the human strategy became apparent when civilian populations began to panic. The Mortanians had built their entire society around technological superiority. When that technology failed, they had no backup systems, no alternative infrastructure, no way to maintain their civilization. Captain Park Min-ho opened a communication channel to the Mortanian Leadership Counselor. Vexthal, this is Captain Park of the Human Defense Force. We are prepared to offer humanitarian assistance to your civilian population. The offer sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The species that had been threatened with extinction was now offering to help their would-be conquerors. Other alien civilizations watched in amazement as human vessels began delivering food, medical supplies, and emergency equipment to Mortanian colonies. Why? Vexthal demanded during a secure communication with Ambassador Lee. Why are you helping us after what we threatened to do? Lee response revealed the fundamental difference between human and Mortanian thinking. Because innocent civilians do not deserve to suffer for their leaders' mistakes, we disabled your military capabilities, not your hospitals and schools. The children on your worlds did not threaten our colonies. The distinction was lost on the Mortanians, who had never separated military and civilian targets in their own conquests. They could not understand an enemy that would cripple their war machine while simultaneously protecting their non-combatants. General Nam Taeyong addressed the emergency session of the Galactic Council with calm authority. The Mortanian Empire declared their intention to forcibly seize human colonies. We responded by demonstrating that such actions carry consequences. However, we have no interest in conquest or occupation. We simply wanted to ensure that this threat would never be repeated. The assembled alien representatives listened in stunned silence. The human response had been so far beyond their understanding of warfare that they struggled to process what had occurred. The Mortanians had been neutralized without a single shot being fired, without a single human casualty, without any damage to civilian infrastructure. But the most shocking revelation came when Dr. Kim Sora explained the scope of human preparation. We have been monitoring potential threats to human space for over 30 years. The Mortanian Empire was simply the first to act on their aggressive intentions. We have similar contingency plans for any galactic power that might threaten human civilians. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been quietly infiltrating the technology of every major galactic civilization, not for conquest but for protection. They had the ability to cripple any potential aggressor without firing a shot. Vexthal final communication to the human leadership was a broken whisper. What do you want from us? Commander Chun Lin-Siak, now overseeing the humanitarian relief effort, provided the answer that would reshape galactic politics. We want you to remember this day. We want you to understand that humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. Most importantly, we want you to spread the word that threatening human civilians is a mistake, that civilizations do not get to make twice. The message was received throughout the galaxy. The species that had seemed like newcomers have revealed themselves as the most sophisticated military power in known space. They had won a war without violence, achieved victory without conquest, and demonstrated mercy without weakness. The Mortanian Empire would survive, but it would never again threaten another civilization. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was the terrifying competence of a species that had spent millennia learning to outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight enemies that should have been impossible to defeat. Dr. Kim Sora returned to her terraforming work, but now she operated with knowledge that humanity could protect what they built. The gardens of human space would continue to bloom, because the galaxy now understood the cost of threatening them. Captain Park Min-ho established the new Diplomatic Protection Division, tasked with ensuring that the Mortanian incident would never need to be repeated. His ships carried the tools to disable any potential aggressor before violence could begin. The Mortanians themselves began the long process of rebuilding their civilization under human guidance. They were learning that strength without wisdom was just destruction, and that true power came from protecting others rather than threatening them. Admiral Choi watched the final reports with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy was safer because humanity had been willing to fight a war that no one else understood. They had turned the enemy greatest strength against them and achieved victory through superior planning rather than superior firepower. The lesson was clear to every civilization in the galaxy. Humanity might be newcomers, but they were newcomers who had mastered the art of winning without fighting, and fighting only when winning was assured. The Mortanian incident was over, but its legacy would shape galactic politics for generations to come. 6 months after the Mortanian incident, as historians would later call it, the galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. Ambassador Li Jinwu stood before the reformed Galactic Council no longer as a representative of a minor species, but as the acknowledged leader of the most formidable civilization in known space. The empty seat where Vexthal once sat served as a reminder of how quickly galactic power could shift. The former Mortanian counselor now worked as a humanitarian coordinator, helping to rebuild the infrastructure that human infiltration had disabled. His species had learned humility through necessity, and surprisingly they were adapting better than anyone had expected. The Terran Accords are now open for signature, Li announced to the assembled representatives. Any civilization that commits to peaceful coexistence and mutual respect will receive humanity guarantee of protection against aggression. The irony was not lost on the alien delegates. The species they had initially dismissed as primitive newcomers was now offering to serve as galactic peacekeepers, but the events of the past 6 months had proven that human protection was the most valuable commodity in the Galaxy DR. Kim Sora had returned to her terraforming work, but now she operated with resources that would have been unimaginable before the crisis. Grateful civilizations throughout the galaxy were providing funding and technology for human colonial expansion. The Kepler 442 system had become the center of a growing network of human worlds, each one a testament to the species' incredible adaptability on Earth. President Yoon Dahi reviewed reports from across human space with quiet satisfaction. The Mortanian threat had forced humanity to reveal capabilities they had hoped never to use, but the revelation had brought unexpected benefits. Trade agreements were flowing in from dozens of species who wanted to ensure they remained on humanity's good side. Admiral Choi Yun-woo was conducting a very different kind of briefing in the depths of the Prometheus facility. The success of the Mortanian operation had vindicated decades of unconventional military thinking. Now he was training a new generation of officers in the art of warfare that won through superior intelligence rather than superior firepower. Remember, he told his students, the goal is never to fight. The goal is to make fighting unnecessary by the time an enemy realizes they are at war with humanity. The war should already be over. The doctrine was revolutionary by galactic standards. Most species prepared for conflict by building bigger weapons. Humanity prepared by making weapons unnecessary. They had turned asymmetric warfare into an art form, and the results spoke for themselves. Captain Park Min-ho now commanded the Human Defense Force New Diplomatic Protection Division. His ships did not carry weapons in the traditional sense. Instead, they carried the tools needed to disable any potential aggressor before violence could begin. The mere presence of human vessels in a system was enough to prevent conflicts from escalating, but the most significant change was in how other species viewed humanity. The revelation of human capabilities had transformed them from curious newcomers to the galaxy's most respected civilization. Species that had once ignored human diplomatic overtures now sought audiences with human representatives. Commander Chun Min-seok was leading one such diplomatic mission to the Zephyrian Confederacy. The insectoid species had been impressed by humanity restraint in dealing with the Mortanians. They wanted to learn how humans had achieved such devastating effectiveness while maintaining their moral principles. The Kim Min-seok explained to the Zephyrian leadership is understanding that strength without wisdom is just destruction. We could have turned the Mortanian Empire into a graveyard. Instead, we chose to turn them into an example. The distinction was crucial. Humanity had demonstrated that they possessed the power to destroy civilizations, but they had chosen rehabilitation over annihilation. The message resonated throughout the galaxy. Humanity was dangerous to those who threatened peace, but protective of those who sought it. General Nam Tae-young had been promoted to Chief of Galactic Security, a position that did not officially exist but was universally acknowledged. His job was to monitor potential threats to galactic stability and ensure that the Mortanian incident never needed to be repeated. The galaxy is more peaceful now than it has been in centuries, he reported to the Council. Aggressive civilizations are reconsidering their expansion plans. Trade disputes are being resolved through negotiation rather than conquest. The threat of human intervention has become the ultimate deterrent. Dr. Shin Kyungmin continued her research into advanced warfare technologies, but now her work focused on protection rather than penetration, the nanoscale. Infiltrators that had crippled the Mortanian Empire were being redesigned as early warning systems capable of detecting aggressive preparations before they became active threats. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their military doctrine, it was their ability to think several steps ahead of their opponents, to prepare for conflicts before they began, and to win wars without fighting battles. As the first anniversary of the Mortanian incident approached, Vexthal himself requested a private meeting with Ambassador Lee. The once proud counselor had spent the past year learning about human philosophy and military theory. I understand now, he admitted during their conversation. We never had a chance. Did we not? From the moment we made our first threat, Lee's response was characteristically measured. You had every chance to choose differently. We hoped you would, but we were prepared for the possibility that you would not. The statement encapsulated humanity approach to galactic relations. They hoped for the best while preparing for the worst. They extended friendship to all while maintaining the capability to defend themselves against any threat. The galaxy had entered a new era of peace, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple understanding that threatening humanity was a mistake that civilizations made only once. 5 years after the Mortanian incident, the galaxy had settled into a new rhythm of peace and prosperity. The annual Galactic Harmony Festival was being held on New Geneva Station, a massive human-built facility that had become the unofficial capital of interspecies cooperation. Representatives from over 200 civilizations gathered to celebrate what historians called the Terran Peace. Ambassador Lee Jinwoo, now serving as the galaxy's first supreme mediator, observed the festivities with quiet pride. The festival showcased not just human achievement, but the collective progress of species that had learned to work together rather than against each other. Dr. Kim Sora had become something of a legend in her own right. Her terraforming techniques were being used to restore worlds damaged by centuries of warfare. The garden worlds of human space had become pilgrimage sites for species seeking to understand how humanity had achieved such harmony between technology and nature. The key, she explained to a delegation of young alien scientists, is understanding that we are not separate from the ecosystem, we are part of it. When you try to dominate nature, you create conflict. When you work with natural systems, you create beauty. The philosophy had become emblematic of humanity's approach to galactic civilization. They did not seek to dominate other species, but to work with them toward mutual benefit. The results spoke for themselves. On Earth, President Yoon Dae-hee was preparing for her retirement, secure in the knowledge that humanity had found its place in the galaxy. The planet that had once seemed isolated and vulnerable was now the acknowledged center of galactic civilization, not through conquest, but through the simple expedient of being the species that others trusted most. The Mortanian Empire had undergone the most dramatic transformation of all. Under the guidance of their reformed leadership, they had become one of the galaxy's most effective peacekeeping forces. Their natural warrior instincts had been channeled into protecting the weak rather than exploiting them. Vexthal, now serving as the director of galactic conflict resolution, had embraced his new role with surprising enthusiasm. We spent centuries being the galaxy bullies, he admitted to a gathering of former enemies. Now we are learning to be the galaxy protectors. It is more satisfying than we expected. The transformation illustrated humanity's most powerful capability, the ability to help others become better versions of themselves. They had taken the galaxy's most aggressive species and helped them find a constructive outlet for their natural abilities. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo was training the next generation of human leaders at the newly established Galactic Military Academy. Students from dozens of species came to learn the principles of ethical warfare and strategic thinking that had made humanity so effective. The greatest victory, he taught his students, is the war that never happens. The greatest warrior is the one who wins without fighting. The greatest leader is the one who makes enemies into allies. The doctrine had become the foundation of galactic military theory. Species throughout the galaxy were adopting human methods of conflict resolution, not because they were forced to, but because they worked better than traditional approaches. Captain Park Min-ho now commanded the Galactic Peace Corps, a multi-species organization that responded to crises throughout The galaxy his ships carried representatives from dozens of civilizations, all working together to prevent conflicts before they could escalate. The most recent crisis had been resolved without a single shot being fired. The Andromedan trade dispute had been settled through negotiation, mediation, and the simple presence of human peacekeepers who had made violence unthinkable. Commander Chun Min-seok had retired from active duty to become a teacher and philosopher. His memoirs, titled The Art of Winning Without Fighting, had become required reading at military academies throughout the galaxy. The humans taught us that strength is not about being able to destroy your enemies, he wrote. It is about being able to help them become friends. General Nam Tae-young continued his work as Chief of Galactic Security, but his role had evolved dramatically. Instead of preparing for wars, he now focused on preventing them. His early warning systems had detected and diffused dozens of potential conflicts before they could escalate. Dr. Shin Kyung-min had won the Galactic Science Prize for her work on defensive technologies. Her research had made war not just unthinkable but practically impossible. The nanoscale peacekeepers she had developed could detect and neutralize aggressive preparations before they became active threats. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest gift was not their technology or their military might. It was their ability to see potential in others and help them realize that they had transformed enemies into allies, bullies into protectors, and a galaxy of isolated species into a thriving community. As the Harmony Festival concluded, Ambassador Lee delivered the closing address to the assembled representatives. 5 years ago, we faced a choice between war and peace. We chose peace, but we were prepared for war. Today, we face the same choice every day. And every day we choose to build rather than destroy, to cooperate rather than compete, to lift each other up rather than tear each other down. The speech was broadcast throughout the galaxy, reaching billions of beings who had learned to see humanity not as conquerors but as guardians of galactic civilization, the species that had once been dismissed as primitive newcomers have become the foundation upon which a new age of peace was built. The Mortanian incident had taught the galaxy a simple lesson: humanity did not seek to rule others, but they would protect those who could not protect themselves. They had won the ultimate victory not through conquest, but through the simple act of being worthy of trust. In the depths of space, human vessels continued their quiet patrols not as conquerors but as protectors. The galaxy slept peacefully, knowing that somewhere in the darkness humanity was watching over them all. The legacy of the Mortanian incident was not fear or domination. It was the understanding that some species do not fight to win, they fight to ensure that everyone can live in peace. And that perhaps was the most human thing of all. Young cadets at the Galactic Military Academy learned the final lesson of the Mortanian incident. Written in simple words on the academy walls, the best way to win a war is to make sure it never has to be fought. Across the galaxy, children of dozens of species played together on worlds that humans had helped make safe. They would grow up in a universe where conflict was rare and cooperation was common. They would never know the fear that had once dominated galactic politics. The Mortanian Empire children now learned human philosophy alongside their traditional studies. They understood that strength without wisdom was meaningless, and that true power came from protecting others rather than threatening them. On the anniversary of the incident itself, a simple ceremony was held at the site where Vexthal had first threatened humanity. The memorial bore no weapons, no symbols of victory, just words that captured the essence of what had changed. We chose to help rather than hurt, to build rather than break, to love rather than hate. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all. Some victories are won not through superior firepower but through superior character, and humanity had shown that the greatest strength was the strength to choose mercy over vengeance, peace over war, and hope over fear. The Mortanian incident was over, but its legacy would continue forever in a galaxy that had learned to choose peace, because someone had been strong enough to make that choice possible.